Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special episode of the Comic Source Comic Boom collaboration. Tons of DC news today, so Rocky and I thought it would be a good idea to go ahead and jump on here and talk about all this incredible news. I guess starting with Superman. So the big news about Superman is that the regular Superman title is going to be ending, and Tom Taylor is going to be taking over a new Superman title called Superman, Son of Kal-El. We also already had the announcement previously, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow from Tom King with art by Bilquis Evely. So that's coming. Philip Kennedy Johnson is going to be continuing on Action Comics with artist Daniel Sampere. So we sort of knew this was coming. Philip Kennedy Johnson had been very upfront about the fact that once his kind of initial few issues of both of the titles were done, that he was just going to be continuing on one of the titles and somebody was going to be taking over the other one. Well, it turns out the other title's actually ending. And we're getting a new, as I said, Superman with starring John Kent. Also announced today, Superman and the Authority, which is going to be a limited series written by Grant Morrison with art by Mikel Janín. So that's coming as well, launching on July 20th. So a lot of shakeups in the world of Superman. So what were your initial thoughts when you heard these announcements, Rocky?
Well, I got to tell you, I was, I've got, it's such a mixed bag for me. I love, I mean, you and I were talking about it, along with Dark Knight about back in the day. I either wanted Mark Waid or Tom Taylor on Superman. Either or. My first choice was Mark Waid, but I gotta admit, I love Tom Taylor, and I'm happy that he's on Superman. Of course, there's a part of me, and Jace, you mentioned this earlier when we sort of tweeted back and forth, and that is John Kent really Superman, right? And it's sort of like, well, look, if I'm going to give Dick Grayson a chance, and I collected Batman when Dick Grayson was Batman, shouldn't I give John Kent a chance? Because look, I'm getting 1 out of 2 here. I want the adventures of Clark Kent, Kal-El, as Superman, and I want Tom Taylor to write it. That's fantastic. If I got to settle for Tom Taylor writing John Kent instead of Clark Kent, I suppose I can live with that. I will. I'll probably be a little bit more cynical the more we talk about it, and you share your thoughts. But I'm going to choose to be optimistic only because Tom Taylor has rarely disappointed me. He's always impressed me. He's just between Deceased, between Injustice, between Nightwing. He's a master at creating character moments that are emotional and have emotional gravitas. And quite frankly, I've got some concerns about maybe whether the artist John Timms can illustrate those character moments. But I'm more than willing to give Tom Taylor all the benefit of the doubt here. But I got to admit, and we'll talk about Future State, Superman and Metropolis, John Kent. It's not a character that first impressions were terrible, quite frankly. And I don't know, man. What do you think? Any reason to be optimistic here, or what?
Well, yeah. I mean, the only reason I'm optimistic about this at all is because, as you said, Tom Taylor has earned our trust. I kind of felt like you felt about the Future State title. It wasn't good, and that's putting it lightly, both in terms of narrative and art wise with John Timms. I've seen John Timms do decent artwork before, though, so I'm less concerned about that. I feel like that has more to do with kind of the mess that Future State was and the everything but the kitchen sink approach that Sean Lewis kind of threw in there visually for Timms to represent. Certainly Tim's art when he was doing Harley Quinn, it was also a bit busy, but again, that suited the narrative. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and think that whatever Tom Taylor's narrative is, it's going to be much simpler and cleaner than a Harley Quinn book or Superman of Metropolis, and Tim's art could possibly reflect that. So as far as that goes, I'm completely keeping an open mind on Tim's and what the book will look like, and I'm just going to judge it on its own merits. as far as Tom Taylor writing the Superman book, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I see everybody congratulating him on Twitter saying, hey, we know Superman's your favorite character. Congratulations. We know this is a dream gig for you. You're writing Superman. And I just want to yell out, no, he's not. This is not Superman. Let's get that out there 100%. This is not writing Superman. Superman is Kal-El, period. Yeah. And the story of Kal-El is still being told by Philip Kennedy Johnson over in Action Comics. It's clear that what he's doing is just continuing down the path of getting to that point of Superman and that story that we had in Future State, Superman, War of Worlds, Worlds of War, whatever it was, which we also didn't care for. And it felt like Kennedy was trying to get to the emotional weight and gravitas of Superman, but sort of missing the mark. I felt like he couldn't see the forest for the trees because he was so overwhelmed with the concept of Superman and forgot to give us character for Kal-El. And I mean, honestly, in those two stories he wrote, we hardly hear. The first story, Superman doesn't even say but a few words. Like, it wasn't a Superman story. It was a story about what people thought about Superman, not a Superman story.
Yeah,
the second one is narrated by Superman, but I still feel like it wasn't a Superman story. It was, it was talking about that personal hero of Kennedy Johnson's, who he was kind of comparing to Superman. So I feel like we still, in those issues, didn't get a true feel of Superman. And then when we were talking about his first Action Comics issue, what did I say? It was 13 pages before Superman actually said a word. You remember
that? I think, frankly, what shocks me about the whole damn thing is that all of those rumors that we heard, what feels like a year and a half, 2 years ago, about what the future of the DC universe was before everything collapsed and the pandemic hit, all of those rumors and storylines that we thought were outrageous and ridiculous, they've all bore fruit. Here we are. We got Endless Winter. We got Future State. We're getting this Superman in Authority. We're getting this outrageous John Kent is the Superman of Metropolis now. And we're getting Superman's going to be out in space. And we're getting all these storylines that, frankly, never excited us when they began as rumors. They're all true. I mean, they're pretty much all true. Guess what? Bleeding Cool was right. They pretty much got it right across the board, and along with all those rumors. And, again, I'm a little bit dismayed by it. The only what I find interesting and what I hope is with Tom Taylor, because now with the synopsis of Superman, Son of Kal-El, with him taking over Metropolis, obviously now it appears that Superman is going to be leading the Authority and apparently trying to rescue people on War World, and he's going to be going up against the Ultra Humanite, apparently is the villain that Superman and the Authority will be fighting. And I understand this is only a 4-issue series by Grant Morrison. That's correct, right?
Yeah.
And to me, that's, it's interesting because Grant Morrison has an interesting history with the Authority. Back in the day, he only wrote 2 issues of it, and then it basically collapsed under him, and he got frustrated with it, and he never did continue with it. But I think that Grant Morrison is a wild card, but I actually am really looking forward to this. I think that Superman and the Authority, I think this is an exciting combination. I think that nothing is going to test Superman's morality and his own method, his modus operandi. Superman's modus operandi, how he operates as a hero, is very much at odds with the Authority. We know that. Anyone who's ever read The Authority knows they're very, very different heroic mindsets. One's heroic, one's arguably anti-heroic / almost villainous at times. And it's going to be a very interesting test for Superman. That's why I really like the idea of Superman and the Authority. I regret, frankly, that it's only 4 issues long. If ever there was a longer series for Superman, in my view, I would like to have seen this a little bit longer. I'm curious, Jace, your view. We know that we know that John Kent's going to be taking over for Superman on Earth. What do you think of Grant Morrison taking on Superman and the Authority?
It all comes down to how I feel about all this stuff. Who asked for this? And I get it. Like, so many times we hear from publishers and editors in chief and whatnot about, well, you give the people what they don't realize they want. You give them what they need, not necessarily what they want. Nobody asked. No fans were clamoring for John Kent to be aged up. Nobody's clamoring for John Kent to replace his father. I didn't hear anybody clamoring for a Superman and the Authority title. I'm not a Morrison fan, as you know. 4 issues, yeah, it's going to be a convoluted mess that likely just leaves a bunch of storylines dangling, to be honest with you. I was very, very unimpressed with Morrison when he relaunched Action Comics with the New 52. I don't expect his characterization of Superman to change. Much like Philip Kennedy Johnson in Future State, I don't think these Superman and the Authority issues will be Superman stories. He'll be part of an ensemble and not an important part is my feeling. We see the costume there, which is sort of reminiscent of the T-shirt and jeans that Morrison gave him when New 52 started. So this is probably the Superman news that I'm least excited about. I agree with you that the whole idea of the Authority would certainly test Superman's morality. This idea that the Authority really takes the whole idea of heroes as gods and using their power to do what they feel is right, substituting their judgment for the judgment of the common man, which is kind of antithetical to what Superman stands for. So in concept, it's interesting, but I have a feeling in execution, it's not going to be something that I'm going to enjoy, but I could be wrong. In Mikel Janín art, I'm picking it up. The fact that it's Superman, I'm picking it up. But the fact that it's Grant Morrison, if this was an artist that whose style I really didn't enjoy, like if this was, let's say it was John Romita Jr. working with Grant Morrison on this.
Yeah.
Even though it was Superman, man, I would struggle to pay money for that. I probably wouldn't, to be honest with you. I probably would read my preview copies and call it a day. But the fact that it's Mikel Janín art, I'm gonna give it a read. And obviously this Superman out in space with the Authority, going hand in hand with leading up to that war world where it's not the Ultra Humanite, who I enjoy as a villain, kind of a classic Earth 2 villain, actually, from the Golden Age and
that's right. Yeah.
Infinity Incorporated. So that's interesting. But obviously leading up to War World and Mongol as the villain. So I feel like this is going to tie in. This may be a stepping stone to get the Action Comics title to the War World storyline that Kennedy Johnson has been building to. But it's also the reason why John Kent has to take over as Superman on Earth, right? Because his dad is gone. And, the press release specifically mentions that in the future, when John was at the Legion, he was kind of, there's stuff there's information missing, and he doesn't know exactly the day that his dad dies or what have you, but he's got to prepare himself. He feels like it's going to happen soon. And I get all that kind of stuff and that sort of character building. I do trust Tom Taylor to get us there. Again, asking the question, who thought it was time for John Kent to replace his father as Superman? I would argue that nobody feels that way. And you yourself mentioned Dick Grayson as, taking the cowl at some point. And even that was somewhat controversial. It was a whole battle for the cowl, who should take over. Obviously, it's a different situation here. There's not too many people who can take over for Superman as Superman other than his son, because nobody's that powerful. But there's one huge, huge difference. Obviously, Dick Grayson ends up taking over as Batman when Batman is believed dead, but has actually been traveling through time because of the Omega beams of Darkseid. At that point, Dick Grayson had been around for 50, 60 years. Well-established character, clearly a hero. We know who he is. He's had his own series as Nightwing.
Lots of build-up.
Multiple times. Yeah, we know who he is. I would make the argument that we still don't know who John Kent is. Some writers want to explore this trauma of him being trapped in a volcano, traveling through time, aged up, born in one universe, raised in secret in another, now a hero in a third, and all that kind of stuff. We don't know who he, and maybe that's what this is. Maybe this is what we need in order to understand who John Kent is. But my argument would be I'd rather have a John Kent series while his father is here on Earth mentoring him. You know, similar to, call it Superboy if you want, call it whatever. I mean, we had a Con-El Superboy series for a long time. That, I think, with him sort of going through the trials and tribulations of being a hero, making mistakes, learning from his father, that I would be more interested in seeing rather than saying, hey, look, he's headlining the Superman book with everything that comes with that, with all the expectations heaped upon the shoulders, when he is still a relatively new character who hasn't really been established, especially a character at this age. He hasn't been established of who he is, his characterization, his beliefs, his abilities, his like, I don't have any faith in him to be Superman. I wouldn't believe in this guy. You know, what have you shown me?
Well, it's exactly right. We know nothing about him, and this is going to be like a crash course in getting to know John Kent. And I love Tom Taylor, but I got to tell you, if Tom Taylor pulls this off, he's really going to impress the hell out of me, because I mean, it's actually more difficult. And you know, I told you I was going to get more cynical as we progressed here, and I'm going to be very cynical right now. And this is why my faith's in Tom Taylor. But building on what you're saying, I think it's even worse than what you're saying. We know nothing about John Kent. We don't know who his friends are. I mean, he's 17 years old now. He's got to stop hanging around 13-year-old Damian sometime. And in fact, he has. He's got no girlfriends, no dating life, no private life. Does he even have a job? Does he have a secret identity? He can't have a secret identity. Everybody on the planet knows who he is because they know who his dad is. And he's just been around for the last year because he has been in a volcano for how long? How does he make money? How does he earn an income? Does Lois and Clark aren't rich? What does he do? Fly around and just help people when he's bored? Where's the drama going to come from this story? I literally don't have a handle. Who's his best friend other than Damian? This isn't going to be Super Sons. Damian is not going to be, as far as I'm aware, in Superman Son of Kal-El. And frankly, I hope he isn't, because he has to be able to carry a comic book on his own. And where's all the supporting cast? I mean, Tom Taylor literally has to build an entire infrastructure for this character, because as you so aptly indicated, we know nothing about this older son of Kal-El. And
the argument could be made that he doesn't know who. So often who we are, it happens in those formative years between 13 and 17. Yeah. He spent that time alone in a volcano, apparently. So the argument can be made he doesn't know who the hell he is. Yeah. So yeah, you're asking a lot, and obviously the answer to the question everybody was asking Philip Kennedy Johnson about, hey, are you going to de-age John, give us back the John we want? Well, he couldn't, because this was on the horizon. So eventually this is going to end, right? Superman's going to come back. We know Kal-El eventually is going to take over. It's $1 billion IP. They're not going to swap it out from underneath us. So then what? Then can we go back to having the real John Kent? Will it depend on how the series is received? There's a lot of questions to be answered here, and again, I go back to that fundamental question of who in the hell was asking for this? Because I sure don't. This is not something I want. I'm hoping for the best because it is Tom Taylor, but oh my God, we're piling a lot on poor Tom's shoulders to be able to pull this off. This is going to be a Herculean task if he's able to pull this off. So I guess we'll see. I don't know. I have my reservations, but I'm obviously hoping for the best. I'm certainly glad that Philip Kennedy Johnson is going to be down to only one book. I'm not interested in that War Worlds. Even if I liked it, even the Worlds of War, whatever, even if I thought Kennedy Johnson was doing a good job, it feels so derivative of the Exile storyline, which in my mind is one of the classic Superman stories of all time. When he self-exiles himself from Earth because of this, he kills the villains of an alternate reality or a different dimension with kryptonite, and it weighs on him. The guilt of that weighs on him, and he develops this gangbuster persona, and he's out there being much more violent than he should. And he's, I can't have this much power and be mentally unstable. He leaves Earth. It's one of the great stories of all time, written by Roger Stern, and it went through all the different Superman books. And it just feels like Kennedy Johnson loves that story too, and is trying to replicate it in a way. And Superman it's the same thing. He ends up on this war world where there's gladiatorial battles and all that. So I feel like we've been there, we've done that. Give me something else. Kennedy Johnson's not able to do that, then at least he's only on one Superman book. But really, there is only one. I mean, obviously, Superman and the Authorities, you could call that a Superman book as well. Because when I say Superman book, I mean a Kal-El book. And Superman and the Authority obviously being a miniseries. So, I don't know. So we're going to have one Superman book, which will be Action Comics, and one John Kent book. I have to get in the habit of calling the Superman title, which is actually Superman Son of Kal-El, the John Kent book. That's because in my mind it's not a Superman book. So, yeah. But no, I no doubt that Kal-El will eventually return to the pages of a Superman title, eponymous title, and I imagine they'll start it over with the new number 1. They won't pick up with whatever it would be, number 31 or whatnot. So,
well, okay, well that's Superman. Is what's next on the agenda? What news do you want to cover next?
Yeah, we didn't really talk much about the Supergirl stuff, but I guess there's not really much to say. I mean, it's Tom King and Bilquis Evely doing a Supergirl book, and she's off fighting in space too, so she's not even going to be there to help out John Kent. I wonder if that's purposeful, is all I'll mention about that. But Tom King and Bilquis Evely and all the stuff that we've seen looks like it'll certainly be a great story, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow.
Tom King mentioned it. He said it. Look, his Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. He said if you liked his Walmart Superman story, you'll like this one. Yeah, and I actually didn't mind that, to be honest. And Bilquis Evely is an artist that I love her work on Sandman, and I believe she did some of the Dreaming. I really like her art, and I'm actually looking forward to this artistically. That's it's 8 issues long, and so artistically I'm looking forward to Supergirl. Something about Tom King, his writing is sometimes hit and miss, but man, DC always gives him fabulous artists, and so I am actually looking forward to see what he has to say about Supergirl. I'll confess that the plot line and the synopsis seems somewhat tropey and derivative, but yeah. Tom King, admittedly, he does have propensity to surprise me pleasantly from time to time, like he has with Rorschach, as we've been enjoying. So my fingers are crossed on that.
Yeah, I mean, Bilquis Evely, right? Her work on the Sandman universe stuff has been fantastic, and that's why when she was first announced as Supergirl, I was like, God, I don't know if that works. You know, her stuff works when it's more magical or ethereal. And it does have somewhat of a feminine quality to it, so you can see why they put her on Supergirl. But then it's going to be out in space, so maybe she's going to be drawing aliens and stuff. And she's pretty talented, so I could see it. Then they started releasing some preview pages, and it looks pretty damn good. So that was kind of my one hesitation about it, but that's sort of been removed with the art that I've seen. Well, another thing that was announced today, and I did get a press release for this as well as the Superman, and I didn't for the third thing we're going to talk about, which is kind of interesting. But anyway, it's a Shazam limited series, a 4-issue limited series. It's from Tim Sheridan, the writer of Teen Titans Academy. We've got Clayton Henry on the line work, and Marcelo Maiolo, who is a colorist whose work I really enjoy. He's handling the color work. So it's Billy Batson. Apparently his powers are out of control. We know that he's at the Teen Titans Academy right now. He's trying to learn. So I'm not sure 100% why they're giving him his own title. Is this once again a way to sow some seeds or continue toward some of the storyline that we saw in Future State, where Billy Batson sacrificed himself and made a really bad deal with Neron, and Neron himself possessed the body of Captain Marvel while Billy Batson was stuck in some version of hell. I don't know. But I am glad we're getting a Shazam book, and you gotta help but wonder if it's DC doesn't realize, hey, we got to keep a Shazam and or Black Adam book on the stands. There's movies coming up; they're in development, so I don't know. Tim Sheridan hasn't been that impressive to me yet with the Future State work he's done or the first issue of Teen Titans Academy. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe with a smaller cast, it's only Shazam, it'll be better. I will say that a couple of the variants that I've seen, there's a main cover by Gary Frank, and then there's a 1 in 25 Steve Lieber cover. They're both absolutely amazing. And Clayton Henry is an artist whose art I do enjoy. But I mean, if I had a choice, I mean, Gary Frank is my all-time Shazam artist.
Yeah.
When he did the backup Shazam run in Jeff Johns' Justice League, that was it. I don't ever need anybody to draw Shazam except for Gary Frank. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested enough in this. I'll certainly give it a try.
Yeah, I do think though, and you made references to it, the Shazam and Future State and the way that overlapped with Teen Titans Academy, it was a little bit of a confusing story. I think Tom Sheridan he sort of maybe bit off a little bit more than he could chew, and because it did relate to the Rock of Eternity and then trapping Raven in the Rock of Eternity and then Raven absorbing the unkindness. And then ultimately the unkindness ending up in the future, destroying the 653rd century where Black Adam was with the future Justice League, and then Black Adam coming back. I mean, that's a quick Coles Notes version, and
I don't know why that's confusing, Rocky.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, the fact that I actually said that as quickly as I did, I almost impressed myself, and I've been drinking, so I don't know if that's just alcoholic memory on my part or what. I got to drink and read comics at the same time more often, apparently. But in any event, I'm hoping that maybe this is these stories, these Shazam stories. I mean, you're right on the covers; they're fantastic. The Lieber cover is really good. I'm seeing it for the first time as I'm showing it on the screen. It looks incredible. It should be noted that. Well, it is only $3.99, which is surprising because I think that the price tag on the Superman titles are actually $4.99. We should mention the price increase, and it's only 22 pages.
So Action Comics is a 40-page title, so I can see why that one would be $4.99. But the first issues of the other series are only 20. Well, Superman Son of Kal-El is a 22-page, so you get an extra 2 pages. To me, that doesn't warrant a whole extra $1. So yeah, I hopefully it's only for the first issues, because yeah, I mean a regular 20-page story for $4.99 is not good.
Yeah, no, but well, it's again, I think price increases are probably a reality that we're going to have to deal with, but I mean, we'll see. I mean, I got with Shazam and Black Adam, Brian Bendis is absolutely converting Black Adam into the sort of like the good guy that he must become in order to save the future from the unkindness or what have you, from Future State. And with obviously we want to get some positive press here with Shazam, and hopefully that'll happen here. And it's interesting that DC is there. These are all miniseries. These aren't series. And I'm curious as to your thoughts. Do you think that's a good way to do it? That they're playing it safe? Do you get a sense that they're playing it safe, or do you think it displays a lack of confidence in the quality of the product?
No. So one of the things I like, I don't even know if it's necessarily a lack of confidence in the product so much as it's an unknown creatively. Future State was 2 issues for everybody. I mean, 4 does give you a little more leeway. At least by the time 3 comes out, you should final order cutoff anyway for 3. If you're a retailer, number 1 should be on the stands, and you should have a decent idea. So I think that might have a little more to do with it than anything. And we knew this was coming. DC themselves said they're going to do a lot more digital first. They're going to do a lot more miniseries, with the shakeup and editorial over there. They just don't have the bandwidth to do a lot of long stories, and people don't seem to necessarily want longer stories. I don't know. People's attention span is somewhat limited. So I think it's fine. I wonder how long it'll continue. At least they're telling us it's a miniseries as opposed to Marvel, which, just puts out whatever, and then when the last issue comes out, oh, by the way, that was the last issue. They're kind of stealth miniseries that aren't even announced as such. So at least they're telling us, and I think that will help sales. I mean, there could be people that could be on the fence about the Shazam series or the Superman and Authority, and then tell themselves, well, you know what, it's only 4 issues. Let me go ahead and I'll go ahead and pick it up for the first couple, because if I like it, I'm only committed for, a couple more issues, and then it's done. So I think it's fine. I think we'll see more and more of this. I mean, there's a lot of publishers that don't put out anything long form. Aftershock's a good example of that. 5-6 issues and you're out. It kind of stinks sometimes because you really love the story and you want it to continue. And that's not to say you can't come out with a volume 2 or season 2 or what have you, but there's something to be said for knowing that a series is just going to continue. Like the Joker is a great example, right? Like how long do they plan on running that? We have no idea. And I don't remember hearing, actually, maybe I will call DC out. I don't remember hearing that Ram V Swamp Thing was only going to be 10 issues until the second issue came out. Then it was like 2 of 10. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. This is only 10 issues, which, I'm not a Swamp Thing guy, so it really matter to me. But I don't know. Swamp Thing is one of those characters I always expect him to have a title. So,
yeah. Well, I'm sure, like you said, they can probably read the sales, and the writers probably got more than one story in the bag if there's a sales success, and if they get the go ahead for another story arc. Hopefully that'll be the case. So we'll see. If Swamp Thing gets extended, so far I'm liking it. And Joker, I thought Joker was only going to be 12 issues, but frankly, if that keeps, it's going so well right now, and it's, if it's good, obviously convert it to a regular series. I mean, let's get the ball rolling here. I mean, but when we're talking about the Superman titles here, we've said repeatedly, like Jeff Johns said of Superman when he wrote Doomsday Clock, Superman truly is the North Star of the DC universe in the metaverse. And maybe the metaverse doesn't exist anymore. We have an Omniverse instead, and maybe we have an Omega world, and maybe we have an Elseworlds. But Superman is still the North Star. He's still where Superman goes in terms of quality. The rest of the DC universe, at least thematically and in terms of the emotion and the feelings, and it tends to follow. So I think that you and I maybe we're a little cynical, but I think we have some legitimate concerns here. But fortunately, Tom Taylor, I wanted to say something so cliche. I'm going to say it right now. I think the man writing Superman, Son of Kal-El, is tailor-made to change the course of Superman comics. I know it was bad. I had to say it.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully he can at least establish who John Kent is. I mean, that's what's important to me. And I hope for Tom's sake that eventually he gets to write a Kal-El book, because we all know that's really writing Superman as opposed to this. But maybe he'll change his mind. I would like nothing better than at the end of his Superman Son of Kal-El run to go, you know what? Tom Taylor wrote a great Superman book and mean it, because I'll actually feel like John Kent is Superman. Whereas, I certainly didn't feel that way in any of the Future State books. So anyway, speaking of miniseries, on to the next announcement DC made today. Dan Jurgens reunites with Booster Gold and Blue Beetle as they become social media celebrities. So there's a 8-issue title, Blue and Gold. It's finally here. It's been rumored, many times, and many Booster and Blue Beetle fans have asked for it for forever. Hey, can we get a Blue and Gold title starring Booster and Blue Beetle? And this all stems from the incredible work that J.M. DeMatteis and Keith Giffen, along with artist Kevin Maguire, did they were the first ones to put Booster and Blue Beetle together in the late 80s in the Justice League, the Bwahaha era.
Yeah, the Justice League International. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was started as Justice League, then eventually became Justice League International, and then was just Justice League after that. And yeah, it's referred to as Comedy Gold, and they were repo men at one point. They owned a gambling casino resort at one point. They even had corporate sponsors with like patches on their costume at one point. So if there's anybody who can pull this off, it'll be Dan Jurgens, who created Booster Gold in the 80s after Crisis on Infinite Earths. And the other part of this is so Booster apparently is he's got this deal to be sponsored, and it all has to do with social media and whatnot. And he reaches out to Ted Cord because Ted Cord knows technology and computers and whatnot. And he's like, okay, help me out. Because I need better I need a better social media presence and whatnot. And so, I mean, it's, when you think about it, the whole idea of social media would be exactly what Booster would be into, the whole self-promotion. And, you know, he would be checking constantly, how many followers do I have? You know, he would be on Instagram, he would be on Twitter, he would be on all those things. And I mean, it's absolutely perfect. Like, when you think about social media, it's almost like if Booster Gold could think of a way to self-promote more, the idea he would come up with would be social media. Like, this is perfect, right? Obviously, it wasn't around when Dan Jurgens created him in the 80s. So this is a story that's, you sort of feel like is a long time coming. And being that it's, you know, these guys teaming up, Booster Gold and Blue Beetle teaming up is something fans have wanted for a really, really long time. Blue and Gold. So, yeah.
Well,
I can't wait. It's going to be a whole heck of a lot of fun. One of the things I did think, though, when I saw it, and I should also mention Ryan Sook is going to be drawing it. His art is incredible. But when I first saw the announcement, I just saw DC Comics announces Blue and Gold. And the first thing I thought was how you and I had just talked about the Gold Beetle showing up in Flash, and how we were, I think when I put out the tweet about us talking about the issue, I mentioned that we wouldn't be surprised to see Gold Beetle in her own series very, very soon.
That's right.
And so when I saw DC announces Blue and Gold, I was like, wait, already they're putting Gold Beetle in her own book. But no, this is actually the long-awaited Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, Blue and Gold title. But I would really not mind at all if Gold Beetle shows up here, because she'd be kind of like the third stooge, you know?
Yeah.
She'd be the third part of the team. I could see her fitting in with these two goofy guys. And I think the last time we've seen these guys together, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rocky, was in Heroes in Crisis, and that was a much different story in tone. So
very different tone. Yes, it was.
yeah. So we're getting back to the more lighthearted roots of Booster Gold and Blue Beetle here, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I actually think that I got a little bit of my own particular bias in regard to Booster Gold stories. I actually always preferred when he did less of the time traveling. I actually like more of the lightheartedness. Now, I know he's from the future, but I actually think that I always liked it, like in the classic days of Justice League, the Giffen era of the Justice League and Maguire, that humor between Booster Gold and Black Canary and Guy Gardner and Blue Beetle and Fire and Ice and all that jazz, and even the classic Maxwell Lord before he became a mind manipulating psychopath. Those are just the humor of that era is something that I remember very fondly, and I think that we kind of need that. And the way I'm reading the synopsis here of Blue and Gold, it seems to be a little bit more, it frankly seems a little bit sort of classic and somewhat tropey, to be very blunt. I mean, manipulating the media for narcissistic purposes, that's classic. That's absolutely classic Booster Gold. And Blue Beetle always along for the ride and always supporting his buddy with his billions of dollars. And there's, you know, Dan Jurgens has written so many Booster Gold. A part of me thinks that maybe this is definitely going back to the original creator and saying, yeah, go ahead and write this. There is a part of me that wonders if maybe we haven't gotten that, maybe Dan Jurgens is not the right person for this, to be very blunt. I know it might be sacrilege for me to say that, but he's written so many Booster Golds. I don't really know that just because he created them. This is only 8 issues long. I don't know what's going to be established here. I really hope that he does something demonstrably different. It doesn't seem that way to me. And maybe, I don't know, I guess you can disagree with me, and that would be fine. I would like to see some. Dan Jurgens is not funny. He's not good at humor. He's never been particularly good at humor, to be honest with you. And he's sort of like, I guess I feel just like DC put Stephanie Phillips on Harley Quinn, and Harley Quinn needed that breath of fresh air that Stephanie Phillips brings to Harley Quinn, I actually would have liked to have seen a different writer on Blue and Gold. Quite to be quite blunt about it. Now maybe I'll be but hey, I'm open to be pleasantly surprised. And Dan Jurgens is a classic writer from my youth, but he's I'm not really expecting much. The art's fantastic, but Dan Jurgens surprised me. Prove me wrong, but Dan, I think that you're just going to give us the same old, same old.
Yeah, I mean, I've had that conversation with Dan before about specifically about Booster Gold and how he'd written 90% of Booster's issues. When you take out the Justice League stuff and you're just talking about a Booster Gold series, and we talked about that and about how more than any other character Dan's ever written, he feels a kinship, kind of an like a father-son relationship with Booster, and it's hard for him to see other people. Right, and now this was a conversation that Dan and I had like 5 years ago or so. So it's been a while, and other people have told other stories with Booster now. Certainly Tom King, but I get what you're saying. I mean, typically when you think about comic writers who inject humor into their stories, you don't necessarily think of Dan Jurgens. But that very first Booster series, that 25 issue, it did have humor in it, but it wasn't laugh out loud funny. It was almost a satirical take on Booster coming back in the 80s, the Reagan era, and greed is good and that sort of thing. So it was a little bit of a different type of take on it. So I get your point of, if you were talking about classic era of DeMatteis, Giffen, Justice League, you're talking about, one punch Batman, one punch knocking out, like those are laugh out loud moments. That's from right. Giffen and DeMatteis, and wonderfully illustrated by Kevin Maguire. So yeah, I mean, if you're expecting that level of humor here, and I think a lot of people will, can Dan Jurgens deliver that? And the answer is I don't know. I don't know if he can.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, but Dan Jurgens is a creator who I respect very much, and I enjoy his work. So,
well, he's earned, just like Tom Taylor, Dan Jurgens has earned the benefit of my doubt. But I just wanted to express my doubt, because I expressed it for Tom Taylor, and I love Tom Taylor, and I love Dan Jurgens too. But all of this, I'm cautiously optimistic about all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about this is, ever since Future State was announced, and we didn't see Jurgens' name on anything, and just wondered like what's Dan Jurgens doing? That's a creator who's I want to be sure I know what he's currently working on, and that he has work. You hear this whole idea of creators aging out of the industry, and they want fresh voices and this and that. Yeah, Dan, he's sort of on that. He's getting up there. He's been around a long time, since the early 80s on Warlord. He started as the artist. And I just wonder, is he one of those creators who's on the bubble who I'm worried is, you're not gonna see work from him, at least not at the big two. But hopefully he's got something in his back pocket. He could go. I think he has enough of a following. He could go over to Creator Owned and give us something that could, maybe that's where we get our long form storytelling. So I guess we'll see. But I'm not the world's biggest Blue and Gold fan in and of itself, but I've always been a big Booster Gold fan. So I'm definitely on board for this. And I obviously, like you said, Rocky, I hope it's good. For me, it doesn't have to be laugh out loud funny to be good. Yeah. It can be a good story, but again, I think a lot of people are going to expect it to be laugh out loud funny. So I hope, even if it's not really humorous and funny, that it's just good, and that people don't call out Dan because it's not funny. Yeah. And say, oh, this isn't making me laugh, it's garbage. Well, no, I mean, if it's good, it's good. If he takes that avenue and tries to make it funny and it doesn't land, that's one thing. But I want to go into it with an open mind and judge it for what it is. But I will say, fingers crossed, like you said, there's nothing worse than a comic that tries to force humor and it doesn't land.
Yeah,
that's painful to read.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the good character moments. I mean, these are buddy buddies. There's nothing
Yep.
better than a good buddy buddy comic. And Booster Gold and Blue Beetle are the classic buddy buddy guys. And Blue and Gold, I mean, the title writes itself. It's just, I mean, it cries out. It's almost surprising that we haven't had a title called Blue and Gold before, because this is something that it's surprising we haven't gotten it already. And frankly, let's all the power to Dan Jurgens. Let him strut his stuff and entertain us.
Yep, definitely. All right. Well, the other news today is DC announced their top 4 finalists for the round robin. This round robin tournament they've been running, which I don't know that I've said this on social media. I know I think I've told you, Rocky, but this isn't a round robin. I don't know who at DC decided to call it a round robin. A round robin tournament is where just about everybody plays everybody else. There's more than one. This is single elimination. Round robin is the absolute opposite of single elimination, where you play a set number of rounds. That's why it's called round robin, because you're playing a bunch of people in the first round, and you play a bunch of, and then they eliminate the bottom so many, and then you play a bunch of people in the second round. You play a lot. This is single elimination. It's the exact opposite of round robin.
Yeah,
But anyway,
they're not sports fans. They're comic creators. They never played sports.
I guess so. We never covered it after we got to round 2, so we're going to sort of do that now, because that was the thing. Like when it first got announced, we got a sentence or two about what each story was about. We didn't get the creative teams, and we were told to vote. And then when we got to round 2, we learned who the creative teams were. And in the first bracket, we had Green Lantern's Underworld on Fire, which is the Kilowog Kyle Rayner story. It's going to be written by Sina Grace with art by V. Ken Mirian. And that was going up against Zatanna and the King of Nightmares, which was going to be written by the Soska sisters with art by Vanessa Del Rey. We also had Animal Man Lobo, Scorched Earth, which was to be written by Heath Corson with art by Scott Hepburn. And that was going to get up against Robins, written by Tim Seeley with art by Baldemar Rivas. And then over on the other side of the brackets, we had Blue Beetle Graduation Day, written by Josh Torillo with art by Adrian Gutierrez, and Jesse Quick Control, written by Stephanie Phillips with art by David LaFuente. And then finally, we had Superman and Lois Ignition, written by Colin Kelly and Jackson Lansing, with art by Vasco Georgiev, and Suicide Squad 7, written by Rex Ogle, with art by Diogenes Neves. So those were the matchups. Those were the Elite 8, as it's called when we're talking about these single brackets. And right or wrong, good or bad, depending on what you chose. And there were votes on Instagram and Twitter. And I wasn't really paying that much attention to the Instagram votes. I got to be honest. I was mostly looking at Twitter. So when I saw these finals, I was sort of surprised. Actually, Robins and Blue Beetle were way ahead on Twitter, so I'm not that surprised. Suicide Squad and the Superman and Lois story were neck and neck on Twitter. So again, I don't know what any of those things looked like on Instagram. But what's interesting, the Green Lanterns going up against Zatanna on Twitter, it was about 60% or more for Zatanna. And I thought Green Lantern would have no chance. And then when they announced the winners today, sure enough, Green Lanterns had won out. So once we get to this final 4 here, Green Lanterns defeated Zatanna. Robins defeated Lobo Animal Man, which that's no surprise. Robins is kind of the one Batman entry into this. And I kind of expect it on the strength of Batman fans and how popular Batman is to win the whole thing, to be honest with you. Blue Beetle defeats Jesse Quick Control, which once I found out it was Stephanie Phillips, I kind of wanted that instead of the Blue Beetle, because this is the Jaime Reyes version of Blue Beetle.
Yeah.
And then Suicide Squad, obviously I'm being a Superman guy. I probably would have rather had Superman and Lois, but that's fine. So anyway, those are the winners: Green Lantern, Blue Beetle, Robins, and Suicide Squad. Now, we were told once we got to the final 4 that we would see preview art. We'd get about 5 pages. We'd get more details on story. We'd get a better look before we start voting to see what we want with the final 4. Well, when DC announced these as the winners today, they said, whoa, hold on. Voting is not even open yet. Voting actually doesn't open for the final 4 until May 5th. So that's over a week away, almost 2 weeks away. So I got to think the reason that they're holding off is, remember what I just said? We're going to see some preview pages, 5 pages of each. We had speculated, Rocky and I, about how we might see some of these other stories. DC is not going to throw away good pitches and work that they've paid for. And, a lot of these stories, Justice League Queer immediately comes to mind, had a lot of support from fans. So you have a feeling some of that stuff might see the light of day. But either way, this is stuff that DC and DC creators have invested in. Even if they don't win and move on to another round, they may want to come back to it. But apparently that investment didn't go so far as to actually drawing much other than probably just the images that we saw in these few rounds. So I imagine being able to see 5 preview pages of each of these 4 stories, they probably aren't done. They probably aren't finished yet. They may not even have started or have only barely started. But seeing 5 pages in 2 weeks is definitely doable. You figure about a page a day for a comic is about how long it takes to get it, drawn and colored and inked. And a lot of things now are drawn digitally, so it's digitally inked and, colors added and letters and whatnot. So a couple of weeks is more than enough time to give us 5 preview pages of each of these stories. So I imagine that's what the delay is. Yeah. But I got to admit that I think having that delay kind of it sort of wastes some momentum of this initiative. So I think they maybe should have started sooner. But then again, if they only wanted to pay for the 5 pages for the final 4, I guess they had to wait and see what was going to win.
I'm really disappointed with the final 4, with only one exception. Every single one of these final 4, except for Green Lantern, I voted out in the first round. I wanted Jesse in the first round. I voted for Jesse Quick over Blue Beetle. In the first round, I voted for Swamp Thing, House of Secrets over Suicide Squad 7. In the first round, I voted for GLQ over Robbins because I wanted to see the train wreck over yet another Robbins book. I did vote for Green Lantern, I believe, over Ada Candy. But there's no way I would put Green Lantern ahead of Zatanna. So honestly, I'm very disappointed with my fellow comic collectors. And I say that very selfishly, of course, because it's all about me, because that's what this is all about. I get to vote how I want. But honestly, out of these 4, to me, it's a no-brainer. It's not even close to me. Out of these 4, it's Suicide Squad all the way. Suicide Squad 7. I got no interest in another Green Lantern book. Blue Beetle, we got Blue Gold now. Why do I need another Blue Beetle book? Why do I never another Robbins book? At least Suicide Squad 7, there's different members on a Suicide Squad, so you can have more variety there, and it's more exciting. We got a movie coming out. It's more hype. It's better for the speculation that I engage in from time to time as a collector. I'm just, I still say, though, I'm glad DC did this. I'm glad they did this. And even though, like you said, it's losing some momentum, and that's true. And you're right, it's not actually a true round robin. But I still say that it's fun. It's kind of a token attempt of engaging with fans. But at least they're doing it. They're trying something new. They're, and they're not being complacent. And I mean, at least they're trying. Admittedly, it's not necessarily the greatest marketing ploy that they could have come up with. I think a lot of their storylines from Future State that we're getting, and then in Superman here, and then Metropolis, the stuff we just finished talking about, I think a lot of it's been down the pipe for about a year and a half. So this is probably the first truly, genuinely original titles these are original ideas that I'm guessing they probably only came up with in the last 6 months, which is saying something. And so I like the more obscure titles. I think that DC has always thrived on its B and C list characters, and it's better when they get the spotlight. And remind me, Jace, I mean, did you vote? Did any of these 4 get by your first round picks?
Well, okay, so I think you certainly voted in the second round for Jesse Quick over Blue Beetle, but Blue Beetle went in the first round, didn't go up against Jesse Quick.
Oh, Blue right, Beetle but I voted for Night Runner, Love in Paris. Night Runner is the yeah, that's right. But Night Runner is the Batman of Paris. So I mean, why does I can't believe people would vote for Blue Beetle over Night Runner.
That was the one other sort of Batman entry. So I voted for because again, I didn't know Stephanie Phillips was writing it, so I voted for the Jimmy Olsen and the Super Pet story over Jesse Quick. But I know you voted for Jesse Quick in the first round. But when it came down to Jesse Quick versus Blue Beetle, I did vote for Jesse Quick there. So yeah, and I enjoy a good Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle story. So, but even now, I much rather would have Jesse Quick by Stephanie Phillips. She certainly seemed excited and enthused to do it when we spoke with her. So no, I did not pick that. I did pick Suicide Squad 7 over Swamp Thing, and I did pick Superman and Lois over Astria. But then when it got down to Suicide Squad 7 versus Superman and Lois, I obviously voted for Superman and Lois. So again, I'm shut out there. So on the right side, neither one of my choices made it. Now on the left side, I did vote for JLQ. I knew Robbins would beat it, and it did. I voted for Son of the Creeper and lost that one as well. Lobo took that one. I did vote for Zatanna over Ambush Bug. I'm just not an Ambush Bug guy. And Green Lanterns was probably one of my favorite choices of all of them because, to your point, we have a Green Lanterns book, but it doesn't have Kyle Rayner in it, and I am a Kyle Rayner. I love Hal Jordan, but Kyle Rayner and Kilowog, it's just a great team up. So then in the second round, when Robbins went up against Lobo and Animal Man, I did choose Robbins, and Green Lantern Zatanna, I chose Green Lantern. So I got both my choices on the left, and I got neither of my choices on the right. So I do sort of agree with you that I would like to see anything but Robbins actually win, just because we got so much Batman content already. I would take any of these over Robbins, but I'm voting for Green Lantern. And I'm not sure what I'm voting for on the other side of this, whether I'll vote for Blue Beetle or Suicide Squad. Because I feel like we do have a lot of Suicide Squad. We have the movie coming up. So this Suicide Squad 7 is like Harley Quinn centric. But what may sway me is the fact that Diogenes Neves is doing the art on Suicide Squad 7. And if you go to the DC page and look at the little bit of art that we have, that art is fantastic. It's just one big splash from Diogenes Neves, and it looks good. It looks really, really good. He's an artist that probably flies a little bit under the radar. I don't know that a lot of people are familiar with his art, but so I may give him the nod just based on the fact that the art on it looks spectacular. And not to say that the Blue Beetle graduation day art looks terrible, because it doesn't. It looks good as well, but to me, it doesn't hold up next to the art, the splash page that we got for. And I don't know if this is a cover or just a kind of a concept art piece, but yeah, it is really cool looking. So I probably am going to vote for Suicide Squad, but until I click the button, who knows? Me fly by the seat of my pants and click the button blindfolded and with my eyes closed and just move my mouse around, and who knows what I'll end up voting for. So, but we got a while to think about it, because May 5th. And I wish there was a world where they could have made 5 preview pages for all of these, or at least been working toward them. So we didn't lose 2 weeks of time, because I think the momentum of it being lost will, interest wanes. There's a lot of distractions out there, especially entertainment wise. But I do agree with what you said, Rocky. I'm glad DC did this. It is a lot of fun. And I guess ultimately we'll see how many of these see the light of day. I mean, honestly, I'd love to see DC do this like 2-3 times a year, and anything that doesn't make it, like I would say anything that makes it to the final 4 would be disqualified from the next round. So you take those 4 out and you put in 4 new ones, and let's go again with some of these with the majority of these same concepts. Or maybe you have a threshold, right? If anything receives, fewer than, I don't know, 10,000 votes, or makes it into the final 4, you throw it out and you replace those ones with new concepts.
Or how about having a one shot, one story for each of these, with a beginning, a middle, and an end, a one shot for all of them, and at the end of every one shot, at the end of every month, there's a vote. I think that would be.
Well, I mean, really that would be ideal, right? So we have 16 What if we got, you know, let's say, I guess 16, if it was 5, would be 50. That'd be an 80-page giant, right? Do an 80-page giant, give us 5 pages of each of these stories, and let us actually read 5 pages of each of these stories, and then we vote on the one we want, and the winner gets its own. It doesn't even have to be a full miniseries, it could just be the continuation of the story. It could be a one-shot in and of itself with those first 5 pages, and then give us, the rest of the story or something along those lines. Yeah, I would be all for that. For sure, being able to read at least 5 pages. We've seen other publishers do something similar. Top Cow did something, they called it Pilot Season many, many years ago, where they gave us the first issue of a bunch of different series, and then based on sales, what sold the most was what continued with the second, third, and subsequent issues, and the rest of them just existed as one issue of a series that we never, got the rest of them. So,
yeah. Well, any other news? Did we cover it all?
We covered all the DC stuff. I did want to, I mentioned this to you, Rocky, right before we started. There was one other announcement today. It's pretty big from Image Comics. Kyle Higgins and Felipe Watanabe are launching a new series called Ordinary Gods this July at Image. So I would encourage everybody, if you follow Kyle on Instagram or Twitter, to go and check out the description of the series and the press release. It was announced on Sci-Fi Wire. It was an exclusive scoop for Sci-Fi Wire, and it talks about this idea of there being 5 elder gods: the Luminary, the Prodigy, the Brute, the Trickster, the Innovator, and they were the leaders of this war of immortals, and they got defeated, and they were trapped. They were sent to a planet made into a prison, that planet, of course, being Earth. And it's basically the story of a 22-year-old who finds out that he's one of these kind of immortal gods, and what that means, and how he's on his journey to become a god again. And I'm a huge Kyle Higgins fan because everything he does is amazing. I love the way his mind works, the stories and narratives. Radiant Black is selling out every issue. I keep telling people, pre-order Radiant Black. It's really good. And then every issue comes out and this one's sold out. Got to go back to another printing. If everybody that wants to read it were pre-ordering it, they wouldn't be selling out because they overprint. But because people still aren't listening, I'll just pick it up off the rack. I'll pick it up off the wall. They'll have a copy. I'm telling you, man, they won't always have a copy. If you want Radiant Black and you don't want to miss it, be sure that you are picking it up. But between Radiant Black, between his work on Power Rangers, which is probably the only work of his I've never read because I'm not a big Power Ranger guy, but The Dead Hand, Hadrian's Wall, Cowl, his work on Nightwing. I'm just a big Kyle Higgins guy, and I love his work. So when I saw the press release today, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to pay attention. Ordinary Gods, and I don't know, we may have Kyle on to talk about it. We'll see. We had him on to promote Radiant Black because I was worried it was kind of his first creator owned. I wasn't sure if it would do well. Well, clearly I didn't need to worry. Kyle's got a pretty good following and has been doing really well. So
and
we may have him on. We may not. So
as you indicated before in the interview that he gave with you, he did make the comparison to Invincible. And if people really like the story of Invincible, like the cartoon, I think Radiant Black has that potential. It has that potential to be a future Invincible, and it's worth checking out. And I say it to all comic book speculators out there, instead of spending all your money on a ratio variant, buy some more independent comics and give up those ratio variants and take chances on these independent titles and like Radiant Black, because I think it's well worth it, and it'll pay dividends in the long run. It's a great long-term investment, both because you're getting good story spec, and probably a pretty good long-term prospect spec-wise too.
Yeah, I don't spec on much, and I don't really do graded comics. But I did pull the trigger on a Radiant Black. Here, I have it right here. I'll show you.
Right on.
Yeah, so this is one of the variant covers. This was sold through Skybound. So it's a 9.8 graded foil Radiant Black #1. and I think it was limited to 250. So the only thing is I wish that it was signed. They didn't. It's not signature series.
That's awesome.
But it is a foil 9.8 Radiant Black #1. So I only bought one though. So and I bought it. I totally bought it on spec, like planning to resell it. But now I think, well, but wait, this is my only foil Radiant Black #1.
Can I see that again? Can I see that again?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just curious. And that's what is that? What ratio is that? 1-in-25, 1-in-50?
Yeah, it's the 1-in-25 cover.
Man, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, Tyler Kirkham cover. So I don't know. If I ever decide to sell it, what I probably would do is I'd take some of the proceeds and buy a non-graded, so I'd still have a 1-in-25 cover, but obviously the graded one, because I don't know. I'm not big into slabs. They're a pain to store, and so comics should be opened and read, in my opinion, for the most part. But I just, that the whole idea of how much an Invincible #1 is going for. And Invincible #1 was one of my books that I was always on my list. I need to pick that up. And I started getting serious about it at WonderCon a number of years ago. And that Saturday morning at that WonderCon was when they announced that Invincible was in development as a movie. And I had been at a booth the day before, and they had a #1 there. I was thinking about it. It was 180. It was ungraded. And the reason they didn't grade it is it was kind of crunched on one corner.
Yeah.
And I thought about it overnight. I was going to offer the guy 150. And then Kirkman made his announcement at WonderCon that morning. Hey, we're in development on the Invincible movie. I go back to the guy's booth. He's got the same exact book, $300. I was like, you just doubled the price? No. No, bro. I'll hope that the movie doesn't happen and it dies, the spec dies down, and eventually I can find one. And of course it didn't. The spec didn't die down. It changed from being a movie to being an animated series. And now, I mean, $1,000 minimum for an Invincible #1. I never got one. My own fault. I knew for years it was a book I needed to get my hands on. People were comparing it back then to Amazing Spider-Man. Obviously it didn't have the longevity. Kirkman didn't keep writing it. It only went 144 issues, but it's certainly doing well on Amazon. So,
yeah, that's good. That's good. It's nice to see. Nice to see a. I mean, we all got stories of comics that we've lost out on. It just shows. It happens. It happens to the best of us. I got a couple of horror stories myself of missing out on stuff like that. But
Batman Fortnite.
Yeah, it's exactly. I missed out on Batman Fortnite. All the talk that I do, I talk the talk, but I didn't walk the walk on Batman Fortnite. How could I have screwed up on that? My retailer's pretty upset with DC, and I think my retailer's probably slapping himself too. He should have been more on the ball. But Marvel had Fortnite covers back in October, and they didn't sell very well. But it wasn't a story. This is.
It didn't have those Marvel comics didn't have a code to give you something in the video game, and I think that's what the gamers want. But speaking of Invincible, I guess I showed one slab. I might as well show the one other slab I own. I bought this at the same time. So this is a 9.8 Invincible #1, but with red foil. So
yes.
I figured this was, and obviously, so this went on sale before the show came out, and so I thought, well, so I bought it at the same time as that one at a Skybound auction. Nice. So that's my other spec, and I'll happily sell that one because I have any number of Invincible #1 reprints. They've reprinted that thing.
Yeah,
so many times, but of course it hasn't brought the price down on the original at all. Yeah. So even the Larry Comics version, which you could get for a song for many years, which is interesting because it's actually a lower print run than the regular issue, now goes for a substantial amount. So
yeah,
c'est la vie, as you said. We all have our stories about books we missed out on.
Yeah, no, it's all good. But all right, well. I think that covers most of the news we wanted to talk about, isn't it? Or
yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
a lot of news today. I do wish that these publishers, and Image does a good job. Aftershock does a good job. They drop news throughout the week. DC and Marvel, they always drop their news on Wednesday, There's already enough going on Wednesday. We want to talk about the new books. Announce stuff on Thursdays and Fridays. Nobody ever announces anything on Friday, which I get it. You don't want to announce it and then have people forget about it by the following week. You want to announce it when there's a couple days for buzz to continue. But man, Fridays are slow news days. It doesn't make for much to talk about. And Wednesdays are so crowded with I want to talk about the new books and make sure people are checking out the books that hit stands that day. And they drop this news on Wednesday, and it's a little, whatever.
I agree with
comics
you.
PR is a tough job, so.
Well, I like. Plus, we can talk on weekends. I got my weekends free. Give me some news on Friday so I can talk about it on Saturday and Sunday with my YouTube friends. I mean, the world's supposed to revolve around my schedule. I mean, it's me.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep,
I'm more narcissistic than Booster Gold. So, if Dan Jurgens wants a character piece, if he wants some insight on Booster, he can call me. So.
Yeah, I'm sure he has your number.
Yeah, right. But anyways, I guess we'll wrap it up then.
Yeah. So everybody, if you're watching this on the Comic Boom YouTube channel, be sure you're smashing that subscribe button, hit the like, that notification bell will let you know whenever Rocky has new content up. If you're listening to us on any podcast platform, we really appreciate a subscription or any comments you can leave on iTunes or Spotify or Google Play or whatever you listen to it on. Those comments always help us with our visibility. So we do appreciate the support. A reminder that Rocky and I collaborate every week on the DC Spotlights, which also drops on both platforms on Tuesday. Full spoilers, so be warned. Forewarned is forearmed. We do cover for the most part, all the DC books that come out each week, both on YouTube and on the podcast. So we appreciate the support as always, and we will talk to you next time.
See you later.